Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
This is Robbe with Believe in the Run.
And today you're listening to or watching Believe, no, we're gonna have to do that again. Ready? You gonna say it with me?
I thought you were just starting over.
I can.
All right.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
This is Robbe with Believe in the Run.
And this is Between Two Shoes. You know, Robbie, every once in a while there's an update to a shoe, and people are like, it's not that big of an update, but even the small updates can move the needle. And in this case, I think it did.
Major minors is what I like to say.
So we're gonna tell you the difference between the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 and the Vaporfly Next Percent 3.
Of which some people are saying there's no next percent in it anymore. I don't know. Let's just say next percent.
I mean, next percent sounds good to me. It's the next of the next percents.
Right. It just keeps going for
indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
All right, so let's go through some of the differences between these two shoes, Robbie.
Let's go through some of the similarities. They both do have a Zoom X midsole. The Zoom X we've all come to love and know.
Carbon plated. It's one of the lighter of the race day shoes that you're gonna get on your feet. This one is slightly lighter than this one.
Yeah, it's like in the 7.2 ounce range, I think. Yeah.
Even though they added more Zoom X.
Now that we're moving on to the differences, let's talk about that. There is actually more Zoom X in the forefoot area, and that's thanks to this, I guess, thinner layer of rubber out in the outsole here. And you can see that, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, this one looks like a giant waffle. This one's perforated. It's thinner, it's lighter. And I have to tell you, one thing that I do like about this update is I get a little more sense of squish underneath the palm of my foot here. And I think it's because this rubber isn't so rigid, and it makes the shoe feel the way that I fell in love with, that little bounce you get off the toe.
Durability wise, I'm not sure that it makes that much of a difference. I guess we'll see over time.
Really, the shoe isn't made for durability.
I take a little bit more Zoom X over a little bit more rubber, I think, in that situation. You do have a cutout here in the midfoot where you see the exposed fly plate there. Of course, that also saves a little bit of weight.
Also on the side here to show you the fly plate coming through.
Which I like that little window there.
I know. Kind of has a Tesla truck kind of vibe.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah. So more Zoom X. I mean, not a ton. It's not like you're gonna be like, wow, I'm standing on stilts now.
We're talking like a millimeter maybe.
But it just feels softer, and I attribute the softer feeling to less rubber on the forefoot.
Another big change that we didn't really talk about, I guess, before we moved on to the midsole and outsole is the upper, which is a lot more breathable, airy. I mean, the first one was pretty breathable.
Yeah,
this is like a whole next level.
It is like a screen door, and I also like how they re-sculpted the heel counter and collar, where you get less gaping around your foot, where I felt like on this model, when you step forward, you got some gaping around the ankle. Didn't affect the performance, but the lockdown didn't feel quite as snug. This one, I feel like you really get a nice lockdown in this shoe with the offset lacing, the new kind of heel collar structure. I really like the fit of this better than the two.
I still had a little bit of issue with the heel lift. I don't know, I tried to figure it out. It just might be me personally. I did like the fit of the upper. Aside from that, throughout the midfoot and the forefoot, felt very racer-like. I did like that a lot. So the only thing I didn't really love about maybe this version was, and I guess it's similar to the last version too, but I felt like it gives even more accentuated.
Tongue.
The tongue just rides. It's just so obtrusive. I don't know.
This one's a pretty thin tongue, but Robbie's right. It does kind of come up high on the ankle. I did notice it. I didn't notice it bothering my ankle. It didn't cause any performance thing.
I didn't really notice it on the run. It just first is a little bit weird, I guess.
Yeah. One last thing I want to touch on with the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 is this upper. It is a material that's not going to absorb any water. Some might call it hydrophobic.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to come in handy on those rainy race days like
Boston.
Yeah. You know, even in some racing shoes, your feet can tend to get a little bit heavier. You can add a couple ounces to the shoe, which at that point you're running in a daily trainer for race days. So.
I mean, really the advantage of these shoes are lightweight, great cushioning with bounce, and that plate to help propel you forward. If it stays light, stays bouncy, stays cushiony, I'm all about it. This shoe does it, and one of the reasons I think it's on the top of our heat index right now, even though Adidas seems to be rocking those podiums, is the fact that it just hits all the marks when it comes to feeling fast in a shoe.
I guess what I'm gonna say is, how do you compare this to version 2? Like, is it something that people who like version 2 will like version 3, or what do you think?
I think it is an improvement. I actually felt a little let down by this one. The Next Percent I thought was great with its thin upper, and it had that more of a bounce feel, even though it had similar rubber coverage. This one just felt a little stiffer. I don't know if the Zoom X was tuned differently for this version, but it just didn't feel as poppy and bouncy. This one still does that, but it gives you that extra little bit of cush. I really love this update. It's probably my favorite Vaporfly since the early days.
Everything that you love in the Vaporfly is here. I mean, you know, as a race day shoe with a high stack of Zoom X, it can be maybe a little bit unstable, but if you're picking up like I want to use it for slower paces, this is a pure race day shoe for sure.
This is, I want to go fast.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we haven't gotten like a pure, like long, like race effort in these. Hoping we can get that in.
I put in some long miles.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily at race pace, but it was at fast enough paces. Also some of the strides and stuff. You know, at this point, we're running in some of these super shoes far enough, long enough that we can kind of feel where it's going. But yeah. I think I have a general idea of why I like this one over the previous model.
This is a thumbs up. We'll go with the newest version. Hard to go wrong with this one still.
We're gonna see some of the pro athletes sticking to this one right now, just because that's what they trained in, that's what they feel comfortable in. They don't want to switch it up before race day. You saw that in London. But I'm gonna tell you, this is an improvement. This is a step up.
Teaser thoughts for the future. Alphafly 3, you think? What do you think?
I'm hopeful. My fingers are crossed. It looks more like a unit. You know what I mean? It doesn't have like a front and a back end. It kind of looks like a smooth piece.
It'll be interesting, you know, because we weren't huge fans of the two. I mean, obviously the Alphafly 1 still holds that place. I guess we're
special place in our heart.
We're not going between 4 shoes, but I was like just throwing it out there just as a teaser. So.
I mean, I can't imagine that there's going to be more hype around the shoe than the Alphafly 3 when it comes out. People seem to love this shoe, and the colors people are digging. A lot of people didn't like this color, but I have to say, I love this color.
I agree. I'm not sure why it got so much hate, but I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah,
so.
People wanted that white proto, and people like the blue one for some reason. I'm not into that one. This one I thought was hot. It looks great. It's fun. Like when we were at Boston and you see the people lining up and you saw that this shoe just popped off the course.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably a good decision for them on that day because our feet were wet pretty much the whole race.
Yeah. All right, so that wraps it up. We're saying go for the 3.
Do it.